In addition to the presidency, 1/3 of the Senate, and 435 House of Representatives seats, as well as various governorships and city council positions, Tuesday marked various ballot initiatives that were on the voting block across the country. Some of these range from gay marriage to legalization of marijuana for recreational use to assisted suicide to words in the state constitution taken out, as we've seen in Alabama. John, what were the most important ballot initiatives across the country in your book?
Well, I think the gay marriage initiatives were a big one. I mean, I'm amazed by how the turnaround that we've had in this country on gay marriage. In 2004, Karl Rove put gay marriage on the ballot in a number of states as a way of drawing out the conservative base. And now, we saw it passed in Maryland, it passed in Washington. Different measures, though. I mean,
Minnesota was
rejected.
No, Minnesota was rejected to make it unconstitutional, I believe.
Well,
so Minnesota was like a pass.
They rejected amending the Constitution to allow for gay marriage. But in Washington, it basically, some of them were questionnaires. They just said, should we adopt a law, and just kind of to gauge the response. But Maryland had actually amended the Constitution to allow for gay marriage. So I think it's important, and as time progresses, we'll have to see how.
I think we're going to have a federal law making homosexual marriage legal within the next few years. As previously stated, I'm a fiscal conservative. I look at myself on social issues as very moderate. I see people to the far right of my party costing themselves elections, seats in the Senate that should be winnable, besides their own misspeaks in various terms. And I just think that this is something that the Republicans should adopt. I thought if Mitt Romney won, that he should legalize homosexual marriage across the country. And
well, there should be separation in state and church. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter what the Christian beliefs are. A lot of Republicans, Christians,
evangelical Christians.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what their beliefs are. It matters about the state itself. It doesn't matter how they feel about if it's right or wrong, if it's moral or not. It's the country itself.
Either way, I think we're maybe one more term away from this being a federal law. I think
we have DOMA right now. DOMA would have to be repealed first, the Defense of Marriage Act.
Okay. I think it will be. I think the worst thing the Republican Party could do if they were to gain seats, let's say they were to gain seats if economic conditions worsen or whatnot within 2 years, would be to go towards social issues and start unloading there. I think it boggles the mind. You lose elections based on that. 2010, we've seen, Christina Quinn said in the city, the city council chairwoman said that New York has gained a lot of revenue from homosexual marriage as Andrew Cuomo signed that into law in June of 2011. I think the future is a homosexual marriage.
That money might be because other states don't have it, so people come across the border to get married.
No matter what.
Why does it cost money, that you wouldn't spend otherwise?
Yeah, that's true too.
No matter what, I think we're within 4 to 5 years where it is legalized across the board, across the country, and I think that our next presidential candidate should either embrace it or not even remotely mention it. And I don't even think it should be a question, because you're going to have a far right zealot, like a Rick Santorum.
Well, I think it'll become a constitutional issue eventually. You'll have DOMA, you'll have a challenge to DOMA. They'll challenge it on equal protection grounds, saying, look, we have marriage in these states, actually, probably won't be challenged DOMA on equal protection because they're not treating people differently. There'll probably be a state challenge. Somebody will say, I can't marry in this state, but I could get married in that state. And it'll be an equal protection challenge, and they'll have to show some compelling reason. And there's no compelling reason not to allow it. The Republicans should adopt it because, also, they're disadvantaging themselves because as a group, they have more in economic resources than a lot of other demographics.
Notice that. I notice people voting against their economic interests sometimes for Democrats for that.
And here's my problem with passing weed. Say I have a job in Colorado. Right? I worked there now, say 2 years, I'm able to smoke weed, do what I want with it, right? So now say I have to get a new job, I quit this job, get a new job, I have to go work, say, in New York, right? Obviously I have drugs in my system, I have to get drug things there. Once legal in one state, I can't come here and get a job here because of the same reason now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what they're talking about is marijuana was put on the ballot in 3 separate states, Oregon, Washington, and Colorado. I actually think marijuana legalization for recreational use was the reason Barack Obama won Colorado. No jabs at his ground game. I just think that put him over the top. It actually had a better percentage than Barack Obama did in that state. Oregon failed, which is one of those baffling things that I feel like Senate candidates are speaking again. And Washington, it passed as well. I think this is going to happen across the country. I think states are begging for some way to not tighten their belt, but to find another source of revenue. I think it's going to be this. I think it's going to be a tax on gambling, whether it be poker, casinos, or even legalized sports gambling, as we've seen in New Jersey and Delaware. So I think that's the future of ways, weird ways, to close budget shortfalls and deficit
I
gaps.
also want to eliminate the cost of prosecuting and imprisoning all of these people. It hasn't worked. If you look at it in all these states, it hasn't worked in 30 years of the war on drugs. And the federal government's going to have to decide. We haven't seen what the federal response is going to be yet.
Well, the problem with the system is that you have prisons that are for profits. They're publicly traded companies. They're there for profits. They're not there to, rehabilitate people. They're not there to help people at all. They're there for the profits. And the more people they get locked up, the more money they make.
Yeah, we have a prison lobby in this country.
It's true. And that's a huge problem. You have people that go to jail one time, now they have it on their record, they can't get a good job. You take a look at the minority, look at black people. They have, I think it's something along the lines of 800% chance more of being caught with coke as opposed to a white person.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
And they have a 70%, incarceration rate, repeat. So it's a horrible thing,
Well, because once you take away the ability to earn an income, what else is going to happen? They're going to go into become career criminals.
You take them away from their family.
Yeah,
It crushes the kids. It crushes the wife.
I mean, I think that if Republicans want to win back that demographic, that's a good way to start. I mean, Democrats would probably go along with it too. But it's an uphill climb. But we have to see what the federal response is going to be as well to the to the legalization, because it's still illegal. What you have
It's
is
like what they do in California.
yeah, what you have with
California.
even with illegal immigration, you have the local governments don't enforce the federal government's rules. Basically, so they've kind of adopted their own policy towards it. So you can be arrested in Colorado on federal charges, but not on state charges. So it's interesting, and you'll still have to pay all your income taxes on all of that.
Other important ballot initiatives was the Californians declined to vote for labeling of certain
Genetically
genetically modified foods. That's a big super PAC.
A very big thing in California too is that they declined to let the governor come out and cut the deficit by cutting spending as well.
They voted for tax increases instead.
California is an interesting state because of the level of
I prefer the
propositions
term
that they the level of propositions that they have.
I prefer the term disaster.
I think it's going to be a calamity. You're talking about a state that has $400 billion in debt.
Well, that's because California is the largest state in the country, 54 electoral votes. They're the sixth biggest economy in the world if you put them side by side by countries. So that's where all these ideas come in, and they have absolutely no clue whatsoever how to balance their budgets.
Well,
So-
it's because of the number. They have the proposition system where people vote for all the goodies, but they don't want to vote for anything.
to
So a Democrat.
Well,
It's been run by them.
it's not.
So they're basically a Democrat.
There's not a lot of leadership in part of the legislature. There's not
On
a lot
either
of,
side.
there's not a lot of political capital where the legislature can kind of do it and they're punishing the electorate, but you don't have that with the ballot initiatives, which is a
Now,
problem.
do you think to get homosexual marriage legalized across the country, or to get the use of marijuana for recreational purposes legalized across the country, do you think there's going to have to be more states that put it on the ballot?
100%, yeah. It's got to be at least half the country.
Well, gay marriage, like I said before, I think it'll be by judicial decree. Hopefully, the Supreme Court will say, look, this is you have a fundamental right to get married. We've seen fundamental rights to family and all of that. And hopefully, the Supreme Court, it's pretty conservative right now. The block on
It's 5-4.
It's
It's
definitely
not
not conservative.
It's 5-4.
Look at Obamacare.
Well, Obamacare, but
The
Obamacare
Senate's
was one of the series. Starting with Bush versus Gore,
The Senate-
Citizens United, those were pretty conservative activists.
The Senate is 5-4. It's not pretty conservative. It's slightly conservative.
And there are two coming up. There
Well-
are two coming up where Obama gets to put in now.
Yeah, that'll turn the tide of it. But I think hopefully it'll be a judicial decision where they'll say it's a fundamental right. You can't infringe it without showing some kind of compelling interest. And there really is no compelling interest for showing that that gays should not have the right to be married.
Now, do you have any thoughts?
You know what's funny? I actually watched a documentary on gay people, and they're showing this research that every time you have a kid, it's more and more probability of becoming gay. By the third kid, you have a 35% chance of that kid would be gay.
Yeah, I've seen that too. I mean, whatever the, you know, I think that's one of the problems with people too on the right, on the extreme right, when they think it's a choice, and I mean, I don't believe it is a choice. I think it's, you know, people are born, and it's natural, you know, it's their natural thing.
Any thoughts on the Senate?
The Senate
Races as a whole, as a national?
Well,
I think
happy with results, but
that's a surprise. I think Republicans, my thoughts on the Senate are, Republicans clearly have had a chance to win the Senate in the last 2 years, starting with Ted Kennedy's seat, and that's another seat that Barack Obama lost since he became president. I think we probably could have won Nevada. We could have taken out Harry Reid. That would have been a symbolic gain. We probably could have won. Mike Castle would have won in Delaware. We easily could have won in Indiana. If you just take out that debate performance by Murdoch, and we could have won in Missouri. This is 4 seats. It's disgraceful. Republicans have a primary process where you have to go farther to the right in order to win. And Democrats do the same thing. We don't remember 2008, but Democrats do the same thing. To win your primary, you have to get to the soul and the inner soul of your party and its ideology. So Republicans do that. Republicans offend people. So I think we have to change the way we pick our Senate candidates.
I think
Elizabeth Warren, did she have to win a primary to get the seat for Massachusetts?
I don't think so.
She did.
But I think that's the problem. I mean, we have, besides Dennis Kucinich, I mean, Democrats don't have, we have a stage full of candidates. We don't have a stage full of people spouting, you know, anything that's too radical for the party. I mean,
You obviously don't remember Howard Dean, but continue.
well, how I'm talking about at least the last election.
Yeah, your last election. It was Hillary.
Satisfaction, though.
It was Hillary and Warren.
I mean, but I feel like
yes, it's too damn high.
I feel like Democrat. Well,
The rent is too damn high.
I feel like Democrats don't have to run as far to get their base as Republicans do.
I agree with that.
There's
to an
a
extent.
real, I mean, I don't think Ronald
Well, like,
Reagan
you could
can
just
get elected
champion,
now.
you know, welfare. That's your base.
Well, I don't think Ronald Reagan can get elected easily now either. I mean, but you have to stand up there and question evolution, and question, you know, climate change.
I don't really remember them questioning evolution during the Republican debates.
No.
And you
I heard them speaking about FEMA and how it could be run better and how it could be run out at a loss. I heard them questioning states' rights.
abolishment of it.
They wanted to give the states money.
For FEMA? Well, he said, well.
Well, FEMA helped us, FEMA did a very good job of helping us here.
At a debate,
Well, the quote I
At a
heard was
debate,
getting rid of it and replacing it with
a quote
the
out,
private sector.
a quote out of context as usual, at a debate, when he had to run to the far to the right of Governor Rick Perry and Ron Paul, he said something to the extent of FEMA could be run better in the private sector. And this is an idea that Republicans have that I agree with, that liberals like to take out of context. That every dollar that the government spends, you can get for maybe 80 cents on the dollar in the private sector.
Well, let's look at everything that the government runs, right? Let's look at our healthcare system, broken, our social security system, broken.
UPS came out of the failure of the postal industry.
Look at the postal industry,
The
failure.
postal industry is primarily because of email. And I mean, but the problem is we need the postal service.
They still have the USPS though, they still deliver packages.
But
right?
there are certain,
FedEx and
yeah, but they don't
UPS.
deliver packages everywhere. That's the problem. If you live in New York, you get it. But if you live in rural Montana, where there is no financial incentive for UPS to go for
You know,
500
the
people,
USPS
you're not
gets
gonna
paid
get
on
it.
it though. If UPS and FedEx actually use the USPS as the backbone for everything. And they go to the rural area, yeah, but they also use the USPS as the backbone of the system.
You mean in the metropolitan areas?
And in general, the whole network.
You
Well,
learn,
I mean, I think when it comes, but there are certain things that the private sector won't do, and I don't always agree, because when, like, for example, in the war in Iraq, we had a lot of private contractors, basically mercenary soldiers. They cost us 4 times more than a regular soldier would pay, because they have to make a profit. Government doesn't have to make a profit. That's the one thing.
yeah, because they'll just tax their citizens.
Well, we look at
Well-
short-term costs compared to long-term costs, right? Because as a soldier, you also give benefits now for an extended period of time when he gets back, and goes on those lines too as well. So it's not just, you know, that.
We will speak more about this in future weeks. Coming up, my interview on the stock market with our market research analyst, David Perota. We'll be right back with you on the Weekend Research Project.